Hi, welcome to the tutorial for InDesign Classroom Run a Book CC 2021 for Chapter 13, which is all about printing and exporting. Really want to make sure that you understand the idea of packaging and getting your projects turned in, because if you don't include all the necessary pieces, then it makes it very hard for the person who's on the grading end to get this put together for you. So let's go ahead and take a peek at your assets. So I went ahead and I downloaded all of the lessons into my folder here. So I've got my lessons. Let's go ahead and go to lesson 13. And I've got a 16 pagers, a start and an end. So I'm going to go ahead and hit this start file. I'm going to go ahead and do a save. So I'm going to make sure I put it in that lesson 13 file. So it's going to say, normally I say yes, update the links. Don't update the links in this one just because I want you to practice and see where they come from. All right, so we're going to do a file, save as. I'm going to make sure I go into my lesson 13 folder. I want to do a first initial, last name, underscore, InDesign, classroom in a book, chapter 13, and say save. That way when you all turn your folders in at the same time, I can tell whose is whose. So now let's take a peek at what we have as we're going on here. What we're going to do is what's called pre-flight our files. So this is a printing term. It's kind of a quality check to make sure that all the graphics, all the files, everything that you need to make this print out well is there. So first thing we're going to do is go to Window, Output, and Pre-flight. So Window, come down here to Output, and we want to get this one called Pre-flight. It's kind of in the middle. So when we look at pre-flight, it's going to say, okay, you have 3 errors. So that number also shows up here at the bottom. If you have any errors, it means you've got a problem in your file. So we definitely need to make sure you have no errors before you go in and fix any of that. So one of the first things we're going to do is to fix this error that we've got in this Garden News masthead. So if I click here to the arrow, it's going to say missing link, missing link. So if I do the preview, go ahead and click on the page. We'll go ahead and take you to where that problem is. So this little question mark in our links is telling us you are missing this file. So when you're working in InDesign, it doesn't actually put the images into your document itself. It's just putting a placeholder of that image in there. It's kind of like a website in that it is calling on a linked graphic in order to put it in there. So if you have a bunch of question marks here, that means you're missing a bunch of links, which means your project is not going to turn out right, and you're going to have a lot of problems. So let's go ahead and fix this. So I'm in my links panel. Go ahead and click here. It says double click to relink. So it's going to say, okay, where is the image that you want to put in there? I'm going to say the image that I want to put in here is Garden News Masthead Spring.ai. So I'm going to look here in this one called links. And there should be one called Garden News. I could do by type. So here's masthead. And we want to go ahead and get the spring one. Spring is not an option. Let's go ahead and make it summer instead. And say open. Okay, so what that went ahead and did is made it into a yellow. Now you're going to notice it looks really jagged and weird, which we don't like. So I'm going to go to View. I'll come down here to Display Performance. I'm going to go ahead and say High Quality. And now it's going to make all of it look really nice. So where the book says spring, make sure you understand that that should be summer instead. All right. As we're going through this chapter, we're not going to do every single section. I just want to let you know, to make it a little bit easier, we don't necessarily want to do all of those things. So let's go ahead and fix this other link. So it says Lily JPEG on page 8. So if I click on 8, it's going to go ahead and say, okay, this one's got a problem. It's been changed. That's what that little exclamation mark is. So if I go into my links, if I double click it, it's going to go ahead and change that. So now I'm down to 1 error. And that is wonderful. We want to have 0 errors. So let's go ahead to our text here and go to this overset text, which means there is text in here that's not actually showing. So InDesign is the accountant of a program, so it will only create a frame as big as you tell it to. So what this is telling us is that you've got a little bit of extra here that's not showing. So let's go ahead and just grab with our selection tool and pull that down to these guides. And now you'll see that I don't have that little plus sign and I have no errors. So I have corrected all the errors. It's so far we're getting much closer to being ready to go. Let's go ahead and click on close this pre-flight panel. All right, if you're following around in the book, the next section is previewing separations. We're going to skip that part. We are going to go ahead and do manage colors. So when we manage colors, the colors used, we want to really pay attention to how much information we're adding to our file size. So if we're done, we don't necessarily want to include every single file. So let's go ahead and go to Window, and let's go to Color, and let's come down here to Swatches. So in Swatches, I'm going to go ahead and take the swatches, and I'm going to dock it right here so that I can get to it later. And in my panel options, I'm going to go ahead and say, give me a large list instead. So you can see there's quite a few different ways to take a look at that information. So look at how many colors it says are being used in this publication. That's quite a few. So let's go ahead and make sure that our fill color and our stroke color are set to none, which they are. That's what that red line means. And let's go to up here at the top, and let's go to select all unused. And it's going to show us all the different types of colors that we created that we didn't necessarily use in this publication. So let's go ahead and get rid of those with hitting the garbage can. So now we've at least taken some of the data out. So now if you notice, we've got this blue bright and this C67. They look like they're pretty much the same color. Very good chance that what you did was create the color and then kind of did I'm going to make another color also. So let's go ahead and make sure that we're only using the one color called blue bright. So let's go ahead and let's delete that C67. And it's going to say, okay, hold on. What do you want to change it with? So I want to change it to this one called blue bright. So now I've gotten rid of all those extra colors. Let's do a Control S and save what we have so far. So the next thing I want to do is find out if there's any other colors that are not saved as swatches. So let's go ahead and go to our swatches panel. Let's click here and come down to about the middle to add unnamed color from swatches panel. So look, we've got 3 different colors that we only made one of that we definitely want to make sure that we have in our swatches file. So definitely want to make sure that what you're using is consistent. You want to make sure you're using the same yellows, same things throughout. So now we have a new feature in InDesign 2021 called locating colors. So let's go ahead and go to this page number 3. So if you go here to your pages, let's go to page number 3. And we've got this cute little butterfly. Let's grab our selection tool on this butterfly. And we want to go ahead and find other places where we have this butterfly. So maybe you decide, hey, he's purple. Purple was cool for the spring issue, but now I don't want him to be purple, this color purple anymore. So let's go ahead and go to our panel here. And let's go ahead to up into our swatches. Go to our panel menu, which is kind of our hamburger menu, and come down here to find this color. So find this color. It's going to pop up this little thing. It's going to say, okay, find this color. Find color. We want to find the color. What's he called? No, it wasn't he selected. Let's switch that. Nope, undo. Fill. So we've got this fill color. And we want to, so it's purple cool. Find this color. All right, so find purple cool. So you can go find, and it's going to find the next one. So maybe we want to make him red instead. So we want to change that color to a bright red. So let's do red bright. And let's do find next. So we can change them all at one time. 3 instances changed. So it's really a nice feature. It's kind of like an Illustrator feature that allows us to pick up one thing and change it to another. All right, let's go ahead and do a Control S and save everything that we've got right there. Let's go ahead and let's find something else. Let's go ahead and go to page 2. So I'm in my pages. Let's go to page 2, double click on it. I'm going to do a Control minus, zoom out a little bit. I'm going to hold my space bar and use my mouse, and it'll give me my hand so I can kind of move it around. And now I want my selection tool. I want to find this grasshopper. So if I look at the grasshopper, let's go ahead and take a look at the swatch. And it's going to tell me that it is a color that is almost black, but it's actually not quite black. And we want to make sure that we're using fewer colors than more colors. So let's go ahead and with it selected, let's go to our top here, go to find this color. We want to find this color and let's go ahead and change it to just a black instead. And we want to go ahead and change all. So it's really hard to tell that it actually changed, but you can tell that it's not quite as light a gray. Let's go now to our swatches and let's go to select all unused. You see we dropped those 2 colors and let's go ahead and delete those and a Control S to save. So really kind of paying attention to how you're using colors, how you're being consistent throughout. The next section of the book is called Using the Ink Manager. We're going to go ahead and skip that part. There's also one called Finding Graphics with Spot Colors and Previewing Transparency Effects. We're going to skip those as well. We've got one called Previewing Pages. Previewing Pages is basically going through and looking at your Explorer and going through to your preview. Do a Control minus or a View, Fit Spread and Window, and turning off all of the lines and everything to make sure that everything is exactly where you think it was supposed to be. Because that one little tiny check before you finish up. So we're pretty good at that. The next section of the book is about creating an Adobe PDF. We're going to go ahead and package it so the PDFs can happen automatically, so we're not going to worry too much about that. We're going to pick back up again on page 379, which is all about packaging your files. So now that we've gone through, we've made sure our errors are good, we've looked at our links, we make sure that we don't have anything missing. We're going to go ahead and what's called package this file. So in order to package a file, it's basically telling the computer, grab a copy of every single thing that makes this part of this publication and put it together in one folder so I can compress it and turn it in. So let's go ahead and do a file and come down here to package. And this is something you're going to do for every single assignment. It's going to say, okay, what is in this package? It's going to tell us, okay, here's your fonts that are used. It's going to give you some information about the links. It's going to tell you about the colors and the other items. So you can actually go through and look at those one at a time. It's going to tell you all kinds of stuff about the publication. So I'll say package. I'm going to make sure I put it in my lesson 13. And it's going to say first initial, last name, underscore, InDesign, classroom book, chapter 13. And where's this folder? I want you to put the letters PKG for package. So you know that this is the one that you want to zip and turn in. You do want to make sure that you copy a copy of all your fonts, that we do have all your graphics, we do update them. We do want to include all the fonts. We do want IDML. IDML makes it so that if you're on a different version of InDesign, I can still open it up on an older version. And I do want to have that PDF that's a high quality PDF. I'm going to go ahead and say package. And it's going to go through the process. Depending on the size, it could take a little bit longer than others. So let's go ahead and look at my file now. I've got this D. Oser package. So if I double click it, you're going to see I've got one called fonts. So it copied all the fonts that are there. It's going to give me the links. So any link that was actually in the picture like all the pictures that are in there. It's going to give me one called IDML, INDD, and a PDF. You want to make sure all those elements are there. The next thing you're going to do is you need to compress this file. So compressing on a PC is a little bit different than a Mac. I'm on a PC, so we're going to do right click. We're going to send to compressed file, which is about here in the middle, now toward the bottom. And that is going to zip it. If you don't submit that zipped file, what you will find is that you can't turn it in. You'll have to turn in every single one of those elements separately, and there's a really good chance you will mess something up. So when you go to Canvas, you're going to submit this zipped file. And you know it's the right one because it's the right chapter, it's the packaged one, and you have zipped it. So when you are on a Mac, you pretty much right click and say zip this file. So make sure you are always turning in a package zip file whenever we are working in InDesign. It's very rare that I'll ask you not to turn something that's zipped in. So this is one of the most important things that you're going to get out of this chapter, is how to turn your assignments in. That's why we jump ahead to chapter 13 in advance of actually starting InDesign, because I do want to make it so you can turn it in. There is another PowerPoint just on packaging for you to look at if you do have more questions. Always, if you're having an issue, just ask. We do skip quite a few things in this chapter, mostly because I want you to get just the bare bones down because we're just barely starting InDesign. If you have any questions, let me know. Subscribe to my channel, and we'll talk to you later.